Representative Omar.
I think a commission decision is very different than what we are discussing today.
Representative Omar, I mentioned the fact that it's not just limited to commission. It's also for anybody that is demoted. So you can be in a regular job, not part of a commission situation, but if you're failing to perform, you'll get demoted, and then you get a pay cut.
What's up, everyone? Today, we're breaking down a House hearing where Representative Ilhan Omar stepped into a real-world economics debate, and the response from the private sector turned this exchange into a serious reality check. She attempted to challenge business owners over how jobs, wages, and employment actually work, but the conversation quickly exposed just how complicated those issues really are. What followed was a tense exchange that put her arguments under some serious pressure. Before we jump in, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You won't lose any wages for doing it, I promise.
Representative O'Neill, I'm just wondering, are there, I was a union member for a long time, and I've also gotten an opportunity to work in the private sector, and I'm curious to know if you know of any employer that has a provision where they decrease pay for employees. I find that a little strange, and so I just wanted to know where that thought comes from, and if you know where an employee gets their pay decreased.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I was a business owner. I recently sold my share, so I don't own it anymore, but there are plenty of businesses out there, especially those that depend on employees' productivity, like I was in the trades. So I owned a company that was a tile setting company, and if we didn't get out there and do the work, and if I didn't have highly productive employees, they were paid based on their productivity. So if they had issues, it is very possible that their pay would reflect those issues. If they were on probation for something, for some sort of violation, that could be coordinated with a pay reduction. It's something that businesses do all the time, and it could be the step before someone is actually fired. So it's an important thing, and it gets people's attention, when they see it in their paycheck that their performance does not meet the standard.
Representative Omar.
Hudson, I think, did you have something?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Hudson? Was there a question for Mr. Hudson?
No, I think he was saying that he wanted to add something, so I didn't know if he had something to add.
Mr. Hudson, is there a response to the question? Do you have a response to that question?
Madam Chair, yes, ma'am.
Are you saying that you aren't aware of any businesses that decrease pay? Because that was the question.
Madam Chair, I think what Chair O'Neill perhaps could be referring to, there are some instances where the pay structure is different. So for an example, she had indicated that she had come out of the towel industry. I'm not sure if these were commissioned employees who may have been on like an 80-20 split. In that instance, there is a situation where a pay might be reduced. Or if we have a supervisor who perhaps had a performance improvement issue or a behavioral concern, and we demoted this supervisor, that is an instance where pay might be decreased. But just an employee who has not been under some sort of performance improvement program having their pay reduced, I've never heard of that.
Well, Mr. Hudson, I think Representative Neal knows exactly what she says. And I think we've had a little conversation back here when the question was asked. I know Representative Uglem, do you want to speak to that point?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Omar, if you happen to be a salesman in this world, and you can be selling cars, you could be selling siding, you could be selling just about anything, and you are paid on commission. So if you don't sell anything, you don't make anything. So you can have good years, you can have bad years. Probably really one of the best examples is a real estate agent. So it's the idea that people can can make less money year to year, not to mention all the bonus situations that are out there in industry. It happens. It happens a lot. It doesn't necessarily happen, here in the public sector, but it's pervasive and very, very common in the private sector. Thank you.
And I'd like to add that in the private sector as well, people, if they are not performing at their job, get demoted, and with that demotion comes a pay cut. And that's not even related to being in a commission position, that's just in a regular position as well. Representative Omar.
I think a commissioned position is very different than what we are discussing today.
Representative Omar, I mentioned the fact that it's not just limited to commission. It's also for anybody that is demoted. So you can be in a regular job, not part of a commission situation, but if you're failing to perform, you'll get demoted, and then you get a pay.
Omar kicks off the exchange by asking whether employers ever reduce someone's pay when their performance drops. She describes the idea as unusual, and that immediately sets the tone for what follows. Representative Barb O'Neill responds by explaining that, yes, in many workplaces, poor performance can lead to consequences, including demotion, and depending on the circumstances, lower compensation. It's a basic principle of the private sector. Responsibilities, performance, and compensation are often connected. Then Mr. Hudson steps in and reinforces the point. If an employee is demoted because they aren't meeting expectations, their compensation may change along with their position. Move from a management role to a lower-level position, and the paycheck can move down with it. It's not exactly advanced economics, it's how workplace incentives can function. Representative Uglum adds another example, pointing to industries such as real estate, car sales, and other commission-based jobs. In those fields, earnings can be directly tied to performance. If you make fewer sales, you generally make less money. That's simply how commission structures work. O'Neill then broadens the argument, emphasizing that performance-based consequences aren't limited to commission jobs. In many traditional workplaces, an employee who consistently performs poorly could face discipline, reassignment, or demotion, potentially affecting their compensation. And that's where the exchange becomes particularly interesting. Omar continues questioning whether these practices are actually normal, while the other participants keep providing examples of how compensation and job performance can be connected. What started as a question about wages turned into something much bigger, a discussion about how the private sector actually operates. Businesses have different pay structures, employees have different responsibilities, and compensation can change when those responsibilities change. At its core, the lesson is straightforward. In many workplaces, pay is connected to the role you hold, the responsibilities you carry, and the value you provide. That's Economics 101. If you enjoy breaking down moments like this, hit that subscribe button now. There are plenty more political showdowns and economic reality checks coming your way.